Welcome to GIT 500 Research Methods. A lot of people ask, why do I need to learn how to do research? Why is it important? Well, it's important because it helps build knowledge. And knowledge is the foundation of all civilization. It's how we learned how to do things and make things and build things up. By doing research, we are building a foundation of more knowledge. And every brick, every piece of knowledge or new knowledge, a brick that is developed or discovered or understood is put on that foundation, and it provides the support for the next brick or the next piece of information. And that's how we went from being cavemen to where we are today. Here are some ways to think of research. Research is, first of all, it's a set of skills. You have to have a certain set of skills to do good research. It's also a way of thinking or a way of approaching things. And it is being able to develop a habit of asking questions about things. If we don't wonder why something exists or doesn't exist or how it works, and we don't ask those questions, which leads to research on how to do more, we would not be where we are now. Questions like, what's happening here? Why is it happening? What is the effect of this thing that is happening? And who is it that's being affected by this thing that's happening? Right? So these are all questions that can lead to research. It's important to think about research in terms of what research can do for people. In this example here, we're going to be talking about the designer, the client, and the end user. For us, the designer could be a graphic designer or a web developer designer, or it could be someone that produces media such as photography or video or animation. We're going to call that the designer, and what research can tell that designer is if their design is working or not. It can also help them understand what a client wants. So we go to the client. Research can tell the client what it is that you, as the designer, does and why you do it. And it can also tell them what can be done to maximize their goals, their end goals, by hiring a designer. And then we have our end user, who is using what the client hired the designer to create. And for end users, research can tell them if the product that they are thinking about buying or using does indeed work for the purpose that the client hired the designer to create. So everybody uses research in one way or another. There are lots of types of research, but they kind of go into these buckets. I'm going to go through this very quickly. This is in the book. There are two applications of research. There's pure research and applied research. Pure research is what they typically do in medical situations, just developing a lot of theory. That's pure research. And then you have applied research, which is research that is typically applied to real situations that are currently happening. For these different types of research, you have some specific objectives, like what is it that you want out of the research. So research can be descriptive, and that's basically you're doing research to find out about something, right? So you get a description of that situation or product or whatever it is you're researching. Exploratory is just kind of finding out about different things, right? So it's less pointed and more open to just find out what is going on. Correlational will be, those are situations when one thing affects a different thing and you're trying to figure out what those things are. And then explanatory will be research that helps explain a situation and what is happening and why. So those are important things to think about, but this last part, the approach, is really the thing that you'll be talking about a lot in this course. There are different types of approaches. There's quantitative research, qualitative research, and mixed methods. And we'll talk about that in the next slides. Quantitative research is just like it sounds, quantitative. You think quantity, that's how much. So when you do quantitative research, it's determining the extent of something happening, or how much that thing is happening, how much it exists, a problem, an issue, or a phenomena. For example, if you wanted to find out how many users of an e-commerce website are having a particular problem, that's qualitative, right? How many is quantitative? Qualitative is determining the nature of the problems or issues or phenomena, such as what different issues exist, what problems are out there, and how do people feel about those problems? What are their attitudes? For example, same sort of question as the previous, but you want to find out how users feel about an e-commerce website and the problems on the site, right? So you can see one's about quantity and one's about quality, right? It's a way to remember those. Sometimes, a lot of times, you use both, and that's what we call mixed method research. This is when the researcher wants both types of data, the extent, the how many, and the nature, the why, or the attitudes. For an example, you want to find out how many times problems occur on an e-commerce site, so that's your quantitative, and how the users feel about those problems, that's your qualitative. If you want to find out more information about these different approaches, there's a lot in Chapter 1 in the textbook. And another great source is this video by Dr. John Creswell that he just really explains the difference, particularly in using both in mixed method research. All right, so research methods is what we talked about, why we do it, what it can do, the different types of research, and different approaches, or what we call inquiry modes to research.